She was a healthy 42-year-old mother of two, until one morning she opened her mouth and saw hair growing on her tongue. Real hair, black, thick, and horrifying. Was it cancer? A parasite? A punishment from nature? Or something far more sinister? Before you scroll away, ask yourself, what would you do if your own body turned against you in the most bizarre way possible? Stay with us because this is a story you won't forget. Like, share, subscribe, and keep watching to uncover a medical mystery so strange, even doctors had no words for it. Lauren Price lived an ordinary life in Omaha, Nebraska. PDA meetings, grocery runs. She was a dental hygienist, ironic considering what was about to happen to her mouth. It started as a bitter, metallic taste. She brushed, she rinsed, but it wouldn't go away. One morning she looked in the mirror and screamed. On her tongue were black patches, like mold. But within 72 hours, it wasn't just patches. It was hair. Real, wiry, coarse strands pushing up from the surface of her tongue. At the local emergency room, doctors were baffled. They poked, prodded, took photos. Lauren sat trembling, the hair on her tongue growing longer by the day. One resident whispered, "It might be lingua villosa nigra," black hairy tongue. But no one had seen a case this extreme. And Lauren didn't fit the profile. She didn't smoke, didn't drink heavily, and had no major illness. Have you ever heard of a tongue growing hair? Let us know in the comments. At home, Lauren spiraled into an obsession. She Googled nonstop. Parasites, fungus, even rare cancers. She found a Reddit thread about a man whose tongue had split in two. Another who claimed their gums sprouted moss. None of it helped. The hair kept growing. And now it had started to itch. She traveled to Denver to meet Dr. Evelyn Sharp, a world-renowned oral pathologist. Dr. Sharp examined Lauren and said something no one else had. This may not be just a surface condition. Something deeper is feeding it. She ordered a full biopsy, and a very strange test for heavy metal poisoning. And then they got a hit. Lauren's mercury levels were dangerously high. The culprit? Her old dental fillings, leaking trace amounts into her bloodstream for over a decade. Dr. Sharp said the mercury had likely triggered a rare immune response, turning normal papillae on the tongue into keratinized strands. There. But removing the fillings wouldn't stop it now. Lauren's immune system had gone rogue. As her condition worsened, Lauren's marriage strained. Her kids were afraid. Strangers stared. Then came the next twist. Her teenage daughter began to show symptoms. A bitter taste, a dark patch on the tongue. Was it genetic, contagious, or something in their water? A local journalist investigated. They discovered something chilling: elevated mercury levels in several houses around Lauren's neighborhood. An old factory, long buried, had once dumped toxic waste into the soil. Lauren's entire street was sitting on a chemical time bomb. Would you test your water if your tongue started changing? Tell us below. News broke. Woman's tongue grows hair, screamed the headlines. Lauren became a viral sensation, but not by choice. Trolls mocked her. Conspiracy theorists claimed she was faking it. But then more cases came forward. In Texas, Ohio, even Canada. This wasn't just a fluke, it was a pattern. Doctors finally found a way to manage the hair growth with a rare oral antifungal plus laser therapy. Lauren's tongue began to return to normal. But deep inside, her immune system remained unstable, and her daughter's condition was worsening. In a final desperate act, Lauren agreed to join an experimental clinical trial using mRNA therapy to reset her immune system. Months passed. Then something miraculous happened. The hair stopped. The taste returned to normal. But her daughter? She had never even had the condition. Her symptoms were psychosomatic, born from fear, not biology. After her recovery, a producer approached Lauren. Netflix wanted to turn her story into a docuseries. At first, she hesitated. Was this just exploitation? But eventually she agreed if they told the truth. She would use the platform to expose the environmental negligence that nearly destroyed her family. The title? Hair Trigger: The Mercury Files. As cameras rolled, a new neighbor approached her house, an older man named Walter who had lived in the area since the 1960s. He told Lauren a chilling tale. Decades ago, the land had been used by a chemical processing plant. He showed her a box of old photos, barrels being dumped near the woods. The company had changed names and disappeared. But now Lauren had a new mission: find out who was responsible. With the help of investigative journalists, Lauren traced the buried factory back to a shell corporation based in Delaware. One that was still operational, Under a new identity, she contacted a lawyer, filed a class action, and prepared for the fight of her life. Harry Tum was just the beginning. Now it was about justice. The trial became national news. Lawyers for the corporation tried to dismiss her, called her a hoax, a media creation. But Lauren's doctors testified. Scientists backed her up. And then, a twist. A former employee of the chemical plant came forward, anonymously. He had documents, logs, proof that mercury had been dumped illegally and intentionally. The company settled out of court, quietly. $48 million, distributed to residents of the affected neighborhood. But Lauren didn't take a dime. Instead, she created the Price Foundation to fund clean water testing and strange illness research across America. Because what happened to her was happening to others. Have you ever had a strange symptom doctors couldn't explain? Share it in the comments. You're not alone. Just as the news cycle began to move on, Lauren received an encrypted email. It was from the anonymous whistleblower, only now he was ready to reveal his identity. His name was Daniel Reeves, a former toxicologist at the factory. He wanted to meet, in person, but only under strict conditions. No cameras, no press. Lauren agreed. They met at an old diner 30 miles outside Omaha. Daniel had something explosive. Daniel handed her a flash drive. It contained internal memos from the 1980s. One memo was chilling. Hair-like growth on rodents observed near waste disposal site. Recommend disposal near water table to minimize media visibility. They knew. Lauren sat frozen. The corporation hadn't just been negligent. They had knowingly exposed people to a mutagenic compound for decades. This wasn't just environmental crime. It was bioengineering gone wrong. The Centers for Disease Control contacted Lauren days later. Someone had forwarded them the same files. And something worse was unfolding. In southern Illinois, 2 children were admitted to a hospital with strange symptoms. Discoloration of the tongue, rapid keratin buildup, and black filamentous growths in the throat. Was it starting again? Or had it never really stopped? Lauren traveled to Illinois, accompanied by Dr. Sharp. The kids' symptoms were nearly identical to hers, but more aggressive. This time, however, there was a twist. The growths were not just on the tongue. One child had hair-like filaments growing on the roof of the mouth. Another had them behind the ears. Was this a mutation of the same illness? A new strain? And then a sample came back from the lab. Dr. Sharp gasped as she read the report. The keratin structure found in the children wasn't human. It resembled a hybrid between human epithelial keratin and animal fur protein, something that should not exist in the human genome. Daniel's files had hinted at it. Compound Z23 may induce non-target expression in epithelial tissues. Animal DNA fragments detected. They hadn't just poisoned a town. They had created a cross-species genetic disorder. The lab that ran the keratin analysis was abruptly shut down. Government order, they told Dr. Sharp. Biohazard concerns. But something felt off. No CDC agents. No official communication. Just men in unmarked vans packing equipment. Daniel warned Lauren, they're trying to bury it. Again. Meanwhile, more children in nearby counties began showing symptoms. Lauren's phone buzzed non-stop. Parents, nurses, journalists, all asking the same thing. What do we do now? Lauren collapsed at a press conference. In the hospital, tests revealed the worst. Her symptoms were returning. The hair was back, thicker, faster. And this time, it wasn't limited to her tongue. She had a patch on the inside of her cheek, another behind her ear, and one just above her collarbone. Her body was responding to something it had encountered before, but now it was stronger. Dr. Sharp feared it was mutating. The CDC issued a quiet quarantine order for 3 counties in Illinois. No official statement, no press, but residents couldn't leave. Helicopters patrolled overhead. Roadblocks appeared overnight. Lauren, now inside the zone, was effectively trapped. Whispers began, is this biological warfare? Daniel believed the mutated keratin disorder had entered the ecosystem. Water, food, possibly even the air. They had to act fast. Dr. Sharp and a geneticist named Dr. Anaya proposed a radical solution. Use CRISPR-Cas9 gene editing to silence the rogue protein expression. It was risky, unapproved, but it could work. Lauren volunteered. Again, they designed a tailored viral vector injected under her tongue, then waited. Hours passed, then days. And slowly, the hair began to fall out. The treatment worked for Lauren. But children in Illinois were deteriorating fast. There wasn't time for personalized therapy. Dr. Anaya proposed a community-wide aerosolized release of the CRISPR formula, targeting the genetic anomaly directly. It had never been done, and if it failed, it could trigger mutations worse than hair. But they were out of options. At 4:12 a.m., beneath a sky cloaked in mist, CDC personnel released the aerosolized CRISPR formula over the quarantine zone using low-altitude drones. The formula was programmed to target one specific mutation site, the hybrid keratin anomaly found in the Illinois children and in Lauren. For 48 hours, nothing happened. Then, a miracle, the children began to heal. Hair growth halted, swelling receded, fevers dropped. But within the same 48 hours, something else happened. A local dog began growing black tufts along its gums. A farmer's cattle developed coarse patches on their tongues. And in one household, a child with no previous symptoms started showing signs. After the treatment, Dr. Anaya panicked. It's mutating through non-human hosts. We might have triggered a jump. The CDC debated shutting it all down, erasing the research, declaring it top secret. Lauren refused. We can't fight ignorance with silence again. She went public. Again. Media across the globe exploded with the story. CRISPR release may have unleashed cross-species mutation. Protests, lawsuits, demands for answers. But there was hope too. Dr. Sharp refined the therapy. A second generation of the formula was developed, this time more stable, less invasive. And Lauren? She became a global advocate for transparent science. But she knew one thing for certain. This wasn't the end. 6 months later, a woman in rural Japan visited her dentist. She complained of a strange taste. The dentist noticed dark patches forming on her tongue. By morning, hair. But she had never been to the US, never been exposed to the aerosol. And her blood showed no signs of mercury poisoning. A new variant? Or something that had been there all along, hiding? Lauren sat by her window, now 43, healthy and scarred, in body and mind. She recorded a message to be released only if another outbreak occurred. This is not about hair or tongues. It's about what happens when we ignore the whispers of our bodies, when we silence science, when we choose denial over discovery. She paused, eyes shining. If you're watching this, it's starting again. And I need you to do one thing. Listen to your body. Listen to the silence. Because sometimes it grows louder than you ever imagined. Like, subscribe, and check your tongue tonight.